The sun over Ganymede's third polar outpost was a distant sliver. The chill of Jupiter's shadow seeped through even the most advanced thermal suits, and yet Darren Holt didn't mind. He had work to do: routine calibrations, supply logging, antenna tuning. Nothing exciting, not since the SS Valiant was grounded 6 months ago by budget cuts from Earth Command. But the monotony cracked that day, when the sky split with violet fire. A spiral of silver flames tore across the darkened heavens before crashing behind the Ebon Dunes, a region of volcanic glass and ancient frozen lava. The outpost sensors went berserk, sirens howling, and the outpost AI Li-9 reported an unscheduled impact. "Show me visuals," Darren ordered. The feed flickered into clarity. Embedded in the jagged ground was a shimmering vessel unlike anything human eyes had seen. Sleek, obsidian-colored, etched with glowing blue glyphs that pulsed like a heartbeat. And then 2 figures stumbled out. Slender, identical. They moved with wounded grace, humanoid but otherworldly. Their skin shimmered faintly, iridescent like oil on water, and their eyes were black pools, reflecting stars not seen from this system. Darren didn't hesitate. He packed a medkit, a translator drone, and a phase rifle, just in case, and climbed aboard his rover. Took him 2 hours to reach the crash site. When he arrived, one of the twins stood protectively in front of the other, who sat slumped against the hull, bleeding a silvery fluid from a shoulder gash. The translator buzzed, clicked, and finally stabilized. "We are not hostile," said the standing one. "We are Lyra and Sayan, travelers, explorers. Our vessel is crippled." Darren holstered the rifle. "I can help." Sayan, the wounded one, looked up, her eyes dimming. "Why would a human help us?" Darren knelt. "Because I'm the only one here who can." Part 2. The Impossible Machine. Back at the outpost, Darren converted one of the old storage bays into a makeshift repair bay. The ship had not exploded but had suffered a massive systems failure. Core shielding ruptured, translation matrix scrambled, and their propulsion crystals had fused into useless slag. Took days just to understand their technology. It wasn't mechanical in the human sense. The ship was a biomech. Grown, not built. The hull was made of living alloy that responded to thought and emotional feedback. It liked Darren's presence, humming under his touch. Lyra spent long hours at his side, watching silently, occasionally explaining how to interface with the ship's organic nodes. Sayan remained confined to a healing pod inside the vessel, which Darren restored using modified outpost nanites. "Your technology is primitive," Lyra said once, examining the tools he used. "Yet, intuitive, creative, primitive." Darren scoffed. "We put a man on Mars with duct tape and elbow grease." Lyra didn't smile, but there was a flicker of amusement in her voice. "You're more than we expected." Over the next week, Darren grew accustomed to their presence. The twins were not soldiers or diplomats. They were kin from a distant system beyond even the Centauri boundaries, explorers of what they called the Deep Fold, a space beyond known warp corridors. Their ship, the Corathul, had crossed a fold storm and suffered a cascade failure. He was amazed they had survived at all. In return for his work, they shared glimpses of their knowledge. Gravity distortion without reactors. Thought-based piloting. Emotionally reactive hulls. Darren recorded as much as he could, though he knew Earth Command would confiscate it if he ever got home. But it wasn't about the data anymore. He found himself lingering longer with them, drawn to the balance between Lyra's icy calm and Sayan's sharp wit as she recovered. One night, Sayan emerged from her pod and approached him with a question. "Why do you remain alone in this place?" Darren hesitated. I was stationed here. After the Valiant was decommissioned, there wasn't much left to go back to. My folks passed. Friends moved on. I guess I just stayed. Sayan tilted her head. That is a human sadness, isn't it? Loneliness disguised as duty. He didn't know how to answer that. Part 3. The gift of repair. The ship was nearly functional again. Darren had reconstructed the fold compass using the reactor core from a long-abandoned mining drone. He also rebuilt their communication lattice, allowing them to briefly reach their people, though the fold still made return travel dangerous. Lyra approached him in the final hours before launch. We can leave now. But you must understand. Our laws forbid us from taking species of lesser development across the fold. You cannot come. I wasn't expecting to, Darren said, though something inside him clenched. You have given more than we could have asked, Lyra said, her voice unusually soft. And your reward must match the gravity of your gift. He blinked. I didn't do this for a reward. But one will be given, Sayan said from behind him. They stood in unison, eyes shimmering, and stepped closer. The ship behind them pulsed with light. Darren felt suddenly unmoored, as if gravity had lost its grip. The ship's surface unfolded, revealing an array of crystalline lenses. Light surrounded him, piercing but not painful. You repaired our vessel, Lyra said. But you also restored something more vital. Trust. You shared your world with no demand of return, Sayan added. And so we give you this. The light surged. Darren's mind expanded. He saw the stars not as distant dots but as nodes in a living web. He felt the curvature of space, the heartbeat of gravity. Knowledge poured into him, not downloaded but imbued. He understood how their ship lived, how their language worked in fifth-dimensional syntax, how their kind saw time not as a line but a braid. When the light faded, Darren collapsed to his knees, gasping. You are now known to the fold, Lyra said. You may never travel it, Sayan added. But your mind has crossed. They touched his shoulders gently. This is a gift given to one in 1,000 generations. He couldn't speak. Not yet. The vastness he had seen defied words. Part 4. Alone again. Changed forever. They departed as the Ganymede sun rose again. The ship, now gleaming like a newborn star, rose in silence. Then, with a ripple of folded light, it vanished. Darren stood on the ridge for a long time. Back at the outpost, life returned to its quiet rhythm, but he had changed. He spent his days recording what he had seen, building simulations from memory, drawing maps of star paths that no human had ever named. Earth Command sent new assignments, but he declined them all. He had glimpsed something beyond duty, beyond human ambition. Weeks later, he began to hear the ship in his dreams, humming, like it had left something with him. He began crafting a vessel of his own, not with steel, but with grown alloys and seeded AI matrices. Slowly, piece by piece, using what he'd learned. He didn't know if it would ever fly. But somehow, he knew the fold was watching. And someday perhaps it would open again for him.